Hey everyone, welcome back to Endless Money Pits. This is my 1998 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and today I'll be showing you how to replace the crankshaft position sensor. When crankshaft sensors go bad, they can cause a wide range of issues including hard starts, stalling, misfires, reduced fuel economy, rough idle or acceleration, and tripping the check engine light. I'm replacing the crank sensor on my Jeep because it's had a sporadic idle for a couple of years now, and I've tried just about everything else. The hardest part of this job is reaching the sensor on the back of the engine with tools and not being able to see it, but I'll show you how I got it done. Here are the tools that I used for this job. For the first few steps of getting everything out of the way, I used a socket wrench, 9-inch extension, 10mm socket, and a 13mm socket. To reach the crankshaft sensor, I used a socket wrench, 9-inch extension, 2 6-inch extensions, U-joint socket adapter, 2-inch extension, and a 1/4-inch hex socket. These extensions have rounded tips to allow some flexibility at the connections. For this job, I also used PB Blaster Penetrant, zip ties, a bungee cord, safety glasses, a stool to stand on, creeper, and a light. The first thing I'll do is disconnect the main battery. This is always a good idea when working on anything electrical. I should have disconnected the negative cable instead because there is less risk of creating a short circuit, but disconnecting either one will work. Next, the coolant overflow tank needs to be removed. There are just 3 10mm nuts holding it in place, 2 on the bottom near the engine, and 1 on the top near the fender. Unplug the electrical connection on the top and pull the whole thing out. If there are a lot of wires to work around, you can use zip ties and bungee cords to hold them out of the way. I have a lot of extra wiring in my Jeep, so this part took more time than it should. I also pulled out 2 of the rear spark plug wires to make more room. Make sure not to mix up your spark plug wires. I couldn't get around the heat shield on the exhaust, so I had to remove the rearmost bolt and bend the heat shield out of the way. It's a 13mm. That bolt was pretty rusty, so I sprayed it with PB Blaster Penetrant first. It still didn't come off easily, and it ripped the heat shield anyway, but that's okay. Once you've created enough working room, you'll have to reach to the back of the engine and feel for the sensor since you won't be able to see it. Take a look at your new sensor first so you know what you're feeling for. You can see it has a curved metal bracket held in place with 2 bolts. The plastic part of the sensor will be inside of the engine, and you'll feel the wires sticking out from the back of it. When you reach around the back corner of the engine, you should feel a freeze plug right there. Reach across the freeze plug and you should feel the sensor. I found it easiest to connect the socket to the sensor bolts before attaching the socket wrench. Got it. Got number 2. Once you have it unbolted, you can pull the sensor and unplug it. I had a hard time getting to the electrical connection, but I was able to reach it from underneath the Jeep. I tried to get a shot of that with the GoPro, but didn't realize it was aimed the wrong way. Here's the old sensor next to the new one. Now we're ready to install the new sensor. Once you have it seated, get the bolts started by hand and reattach the electrical connection. I used the hex socket by itself to get them as tight as I could before attaching the socket wrench. With the bolts tight and the sensor reconnected, we can bend the heat shield back into place and reattach the bolt. I used a little more PB Blaster to get the bolt on. At this point, we can start putting back any wires or accessories that we moved out of the way. Don't forget the spark plug wires. Now the coolant overflow tank can be reinstalled. The hose coming off the tank should run through a hole in the body between the tank and the engine. Slip the tank onto the two lower threaded studs, seat it in its place, and reattach the coolant sensor connection. Fasten the tank down with its three 10mm bolts. Reattach the battery, and we're ready to see if the new crank sensor fixed my rough idle. Listen to that sweet V8 purr. That's the sound of success. Close the hood and we're done. That concludes this week's video. If you like my videos, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below letting me know what you'd like to see next. And until next time, just keep throwing money at it.